Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 3. Starting off the new year with conference games, so going to get um, a little bit more intense as far as the competitions go. And I know we're up to the challenge as officials, so keep up the good work. Doing a nice job with the shot clock. Um, Still a few questions out there, but overall doing a real nice job with that, and the schools are as well. So really nice to see. Again, on these plays, not picking on any one official or crew or player or team, just trying to learn from these situations as we go into conference play and the heart of our schedule. So, with that, let's take a look at some plays. On this one, let's talk screening, our mechanics, and the rules for addressing screening situations. So, in this particular play, we have a pass across the court. We're going to have a 3 point attempt, and the defender is scrambling to contest the three and is screened by the offensive player, and the offensive player is properly called for an illegal screen by the center. So, the center should be looking here. That's good. Remember, if we can, we want to have two sets of eyes on ball screens if possible. So trail, our vision should be on the screen as well. But good thing that the center got it. That's good. But trail should have their vision on this as well, especially as it gets later into the play, as it develops more, because the center would have to focus on the 3 point shooter more so and would not be able to get their vision to the screen. So we would need the trail on this particular action. But the center gets it. That's great. Remember, mechanically, our spot mechanics, we're going to have one hand in the air for the fist, indicating that we have a foul. Then we can signal a blocking foul or an offensive team control foul signal to indicate that we have an illegal screen against the offense. We shouldn't have two hands in the air when we're signaling. So just remember that from a spot mechanic standpoint. And then remember, our throw in is going to be a throw in on the sideline here uh, at a spot nearest where the foul occurs. It's not at one of the four tick marks because this is not a front court throw in. As it relates to screening, you'll take a look at page 42, and it says that to establish legal screening position, the screener may face any direction. Time and distance are relevant. The screener shall be stationary except when the screener and the opponent are moving in the same path and direction. And then the screener shall stay within the screener's vertical plane with a stance approximately shoulder width apart. And so you see in this case, the screener is moving to the left at the time of contact. The legs are wider, much wider than shoulder width apart. And as a result, because contact is made when we are not meeting those screening provisions, it is an illegal screen. So um, make sure we take a look at this early on in the game. If we get one like this, we want to make sure that we get these. This is a pretty obvious one. We don't need to ticky tack screening, but this is a definite illegal screen. I'm glad we called it. Good job by the crew in picking it up. So just note the rules and the mechanics. Two sets of eyes on this action if possible, and note the rules on page 42 of what they can and can't do relative to screening. So nice job by the crew here. On this one, I just want to talk about clock awareness as a crew. You'll notice that we have a throw in here in the front court. We throw the ball in, and the game clock does not run. It's really important with the shot clock this year, especially, that we are aware of both clocks. Every time there's a whistle, every time the ball is legally touched on the court, on a throw in, and so on, our vision needs to get to the clocks and make sure that they are started, stopped properly, and so forth. And then reset and make changes accordingly. And in this game, it's a state tournament contest, so we have a replay and other ways of assisting. But in a regular season game, we're going to have to use all the resources at the table, have crew awareness to adjust clocks. But again, the point here is let's have really good clock awareness as a crew. Remember, we're pointing at the shot clock when it's coming down to 10 seconds and below as a mechanic to indicate that it's near expiration. This is just another clock awareness piece. We can also point at the shot clock to indicate that they have a new 10-second backcourt count when the ball gets deflected out of bounds. But just clock awareness in general, we can always get better at it in any sport that has a clock. Officials just need to be really diligent about having an awareness. Did it start? Did it stop on time? And so forth. The crew did a really nice job here of being aware of that. We're going to have to fix it ourselves in regular season, obviously, but let's make sure that we're on top of shot clocks and game clocks and whether they stop or start as the crew does in this case. Nice job. On this play, I want to talk about restricted area blocking fouls and secondary defenders and our mechanics and the rules. So you notice on this play, we have a cut to the basket. He gets by the primary matchup and encounters a secondary defender who is grounded in the restricted area, and there is contact with this defender. This is a restricted area blocking foul and one we want called. And it's an area we need to get better at. Leads, we need to pick up secondary defenders in the paint. This is our primary responsibility. And we need to pick up this contact. And these are plays, again, that we used to no call to a large degree in the past, but we can't no call these plays any longer. This is contact with a grounded secondary defender, and you notice that after this contact, the offensive player goes to the floor. They both go to the floor, and we really need a whistle on this play, and it should come from leads. So, secondary defenders, leads responsibility, leads mechanics are to pick up this contact in the paint, and we should have a restricted area blocking foul on this play. And I know that we do struggle at other levels, at the collegiate level as well, with this kind of play, but just really focus in as the lead on picking up secondary defenders, whether they've established legal guarding position outside the restricted area, and if not, there's contact made with a secondary grounded defender in the restricted area, we should have a restricted area blocking foul, and we would want one called on this particular play. On this one, I want to talk coverages and who's primary for what. And you'll notice that we have a ball that's dumped in the paint, does a spin move towards the middle of the floor, and we're going to have a shooting foul called by the new trail. So initially, we're the C. We're in good position. We should just stay put. Don't move out to the trail. Just officiate this matchup because as the trail, you're going to be primary for potential traveling violations on this play. So just stay put, officiate this action from there because you can pick up the traveling violation if there is one. There isn't one on this play, but just stay put. Don't go out to trail. Stay exactly where you are and lead. We're in good position. We probably could stop about the tick mark and officiate this action since we have a competitive post matchup. And then center, since this action opens up to you, if we can get to our spot a little bit quicker and get stationary, we might be able to pick this action up. I believe this is a foul. It looks like she rakes her arm, number 24 rakes her arm over the shooter's arm as she's going up to the basket. So I believe a shooting foul is the correct call here. However, it really shouldn't come from trail. It should come from lead and maybe more likely from C as the offensive player is spinning towards the center in this case. So I'm glad we got it, but I think this is one as trail. We need to slow down our mechanics, allow lead and C an opportunity to pick this up. And then if they don't and it's really egregious, we can come get it. But let's slow down our mechanics, allow center and lead a chance. And center, let's get to our spot a little bit quicker because we might be able to see this open up to us and pick up the foul as it's spinning towards us. On this one, we're going to have a shot and a rebound with a quick outlet pass, and they're going to rush up the court, and we're going to have some contact at the basket with a blocking foul called by the new lead, which is the correct call. So first of all, transition mechanics. We want to get to the end line and get stationary at the time of contact if possible. If not, we're going to want to come to a stop around the area where the center official would set up shop, because that's a view we're used to looking at this play from, and take it from there from a stationary position. So we either need to get to the end line and get stationary, or come to a stop and officiate from there. But we do get a blocking foul here, which is correct, and the lead is the primary on this. The defender does establish legal guarding position facing her opponent. So she gets 2 feet on the floor facing the opponent, but then she does not maintain it legally at the time of contact. You'll notice uh, on the replays that the head and shoulders of the dribbler, the shooter in this case, gets past the torso of the defender at the time of contact. Therefore, legal guarding position has not been maintained, so any contact would be charged to the defense. And because we have gathered to shoot, this should be a shooting foul, so we properly award shots on this play. Nice job by the lead. On this play sequence, we have free throws being attempted, and the lead will notice that the free throw shooter is bleeding. And we've done a really nice job with this over the last several years, handled this really well. Um, just a reminder on the rule, and that's on page 25, which is 337. A player who's bleeding, has an open wound, would have any or has any amount of blood on the uniform, or has blood on the player's body, shall be directed to leave the game until the bleeding is stopped, the wound is covered, the uniform and body is appropriately cleaned, and the uniform is changed before returning to competition, unless a timeout is requested by and granted to the player's team, and the situation can be corrected by the end of the timeout. So there is no 20-second or 30-second provision in high school rules. If there's bleeding, the player has to be directed to leave the game. If they want that player to return, they need to call timeout. And again, they need to use their own credit card. They need to swipe their own credit card to buy their own player back into the game. So in this case, if the defense called timeout, the free throw shooter, the offensive player in this case, would not be able to come back into the game. Only if his team called a timeout and they fixed it by the end of the timeout. You notice that in this case, the free throw shooter comes back at the end of the timeout. So this is handled properly by the crew, both rule and mechanics wise. Good communication with the benches. They offer them the timeout. They take it. They fix it. Players ready to play, and we move forward with the game. So this is excellent job by the crew. Good rules knowledge and mechanics and communication. We talked about transition mechanics on a previous play, and this is another example where we need to take a look at our mechanics as we transition down court. So when we're the new lead, we always have to have our head back towards the action as we're running up the floor, have an awareness of where you are on the court, and get to the end line and get stationary if possible. In this particular case, we're looking down the court, running forward. We don't have our head back towards the action, and we have what appears to be a player control foul that goes uncalled. And anytime we have contact of this nature, we certainly want to whistle on this play. And it appears that number two plays through a legal defender and should have been called for a player control foul, but we didn't see it as the new lead because our head is not back, our vision is not back towards the middle of the court. And trail, the new trail, if you see this kind of action and it goes on call and you allow the lead to have a chance at it, that's great. But then we probably need to come and get this one because this seems to be that the defender establishes legal guarding position, the offensive player plays through them, and we don't have a whistle with fairly significant contact. So just make sure in transition, we're always looking back up the floor as the lead, and then trail, let's hustle down, get in position so we can assist if absolutely need be. So we talked about clock awareness earlier, and we also talked about last second shot mechanics on a previous tape, and this puts all of those into play on one situation. So you see the clock is running down, 3 seconds, one, and a fire up shot, and it goes in. It's really tight. It's as tight as they get. We score the basket. Again, we have replay in the state tournament, but in regular season, uh, this is the call we have to make on the court. So it's critical that one, we have clock awareness. We know that the clock starts and stops, et cetera, on time. And in this particular case, lead really should have a good look at whether the clock starts on time. As far as the last second shot mechanics go, remember we recommend that the center lock in at the center position opposite the table. When the shot clock is off or under 30 seconds, somewhere in that neighborhood, the lead can go back and forth. If we go back in transition, the lead will just fill on the table side. And if we have a throw in or a foul, then the new C will be locked in at that time. But it's critical to lock in the C, at least in our recommendation, because when you have a shot this tight, we need to sell this. Center has to come and get this, score the basket. It doesn't mean that trail and lead do not have an opinion. You should have an opinion. If there's a difference of opinion, let's have a conversation. But in this case, center's locked in, counts the basket as tight as it gets. Going to stand and replay, but again, in regular season, we need to make a call. So locking in the center, looking at this action, score the basket, have a conversation as a crew if necessary, but ultimately make sure that we're well aware of our mechanics at the end of the half and the game, especially when it's tight like this, and know who's responsible for doing what and where and having clock awareness. But the crew in this case did an outstanding job. The center was locked in, scored the basket in perfect position to view and make a ruling, and made a very decisive ruling. So well done by the crew on this play. Another transition play here, and we have a dribbler that loses control and the ball ends up on the other side of the court, and we finish with a held ball on this play. So a couple things. One, make sure we get down and in position to view this action, get stationary, because our judgment, our accuracy will really improve if we're stationary at the time of this action, because it appears that this dribbler picks up the dribble. His left foot is the pivot foot. He picks it up, puts it back down prior to releasing the ball. So this is likely a traveling violation in this case. But we don't call it, and then it plays out where we have a loose ball that both teams go for, and the player in white clearly gets the basketball in his possession on the floor, and then the player in black dives on him after possession is gained. This should be a dive on foul that is called on the player in black. So I know that we tend to let these play out. We tend to call them held balls and don't put air in the whistle on a foul, but this is a foul by the player in the black jersey when he does this dive on action. If we have two players that have equally advantageous position, going for the basketball at the same time and they arrive at the ball at the same time and there's contact, that kind of contact is going to be incidental in nature and is not a foul. But in this case, the player in white clearly gains control of the basketball on the floor, and then the player in black dives on top of him. So this should be a dive on foul in this case. And let's just be aware of that when we have scrums and loose ball plays. And then finally, let players help their teammates up. Let's try not to help them up and so forth. Because if a player were to fall and we're in contact with them, um, we just don't want to be in the situation where they're blaming officials for potential injury and so forth. So um, let the players get up or let their teammates help them up, and let's have a good physical presence like we do here. That's really great, but make sure that we um, don't get in contact with the players in this case. Getting down to the end of the game here, and we have a 3-point shot attempt, and the offensive player is going to throw the defensive player to the ground on the rebound and is properly called for a foul by the lead. Good vision on this rebounding action, really well done. We communicate who the free throw shooter is because we're in the bonus, and then our efficiency in getting to the free throw line at the other end of the court is excellent. This is really well done. Um, no downtime, really good communication, efficiency. We get the players down there and we're ready to shoot within 15 to 20 seconds. This is excellent hustle. This is excellent efficiency. This is really what we want to see. We have players tuck in their jerseys, get all of that squared away, all within a really short time frame, and we're in position and we're ready to go. So this is awesome. This is exactly what we want. Good rebounding coverage, and then good communication and efficiency in administering the ensuing free throws. Well done by the crew on this play. This is also an example of excellent officiating and mechanics and efficiency. So you see we have a holding foul on number 2 of the defense during the throw in the backcourt, and it's called by the new trail, who is officiating or administering the throw in and then is picking up the defensive action and properly calls the foul here, and then moves out quickly to report the foul in the reporting area. And then excellent job by the new lead of initiating a long switch here and gets down in position to administer the ensuing throw in. So again, nice mechanics, great job of officiating the players on the court, not just the thrower, and then administering the ensuing throw in with efficiency through a long switch that is initiated by the new lead. So this is excellent mechanics. Good job here, great efficiency, exactly what we want to see. Interesting play situation here. A lot of factors. We're getting down towards the end of the half, so they're going to be pressing a little bit to make something happen just before half in a tight game. And we're going to have a ball that's dumped in the paint here into the post. Number 2 has good position as the defender, but as the offensive player, number 23, turns towards the basket, it appears that number 2 um, initiates a flop. Um, there is contact between the offensive player and the defensive player here, but not enough to warrant that kind of defensive reaction. So I would say it is truly a flop. However, we do not have a flop rule in high school basketball. Either it's legal guardian position or it's not. And we're signaling a flop signal, which is an NCAA signal. So I agree with that it is a flop, but we don't have that in high school basketball. So we either need to call a block or an offensive foul or call nothing. In this case, we call nothing. I think calling nothing is the proper call in this case because number 23's shot pattern is not affected by the flop. If he tripped over the defender who's falling over backwards, then that would not be legal guarding position, and we would want to call a blocking foul. In this case, it appears the offensive player's movements are not affected by the number 2 going to the ground. So we can no call this, and that's what we do. But I think we get so caught up in calling the flop uh, on number 2, that we don't concentrate on the ensuing action at the basket. And on the rebound, the offensive player gets the rebound, and the defender, number 22, takes the ball out of his hands legally, in my opinion. And this should not be a foul, but again, I think we get caught up in the flop part of this play and don't get our vision to the middle of the paint for the rebounding action, and then we end up kind of guessing on this one, and we guess incorrectly. This should not be a foul on number 22. um, we really shouldn't have a foul at all on this sequence. So just slow down, be careful on these. Again, no flop in high school basketball. Either they're in legal guarding position or they're not. And if there's contact, then we need to determine if it rises to the level of a foul. And then if we don't call one on the initial action, let's make sure we get our vision to the rebounding action, and we don't want to guess here. And I think we did that in this case. So to slow ourselves down, use proper mechanics, and just remember NFHS rules in a situation like this one. Let's end this training tape with an example of very nice trail mechanics. We're going to have a throw in the front court, which ends up out by the trail. Remember, trail is always chopping on throw-ins in the front court. We do that, and we adjust our position here as trail a little bit out onto the court to assist on the dribble drive, which is initiated from our area as trail. So do a nice job of that. And then when the play develops further and we're going to have a three-point attempt in our coverage area, the lead, or the trail rather, does a nice job of closing down, taking a few steps so we can see this matchup with a 90-degree angle. We can see space. We can see who's responsible for contact, if any. And then we don't bail out. We take the shooter all the way to the ground. We're stationary. Basket goes in. Signal a successful three-point field goal. So very nice trail mechanics here. Chopping on the throw-in, moving on the dribble drive, and then adjusting to see the shooter up and down, um, and maintaining our position as this play develops. So nice job by the trail. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 3. A number of mechanics and rule situations to think about. Again, hopefully these are helpful for you in your pregame situations as you move into the rest of the 2024 season. We'll have a few more training tapes yet this season, probably 5 more before the year is concluded, and a couple more for credit on arbiter for those officials that wish to be considered for a state tournament assignment. So with that, stay safe and healthy out there. Have a great weekend of games, and we'll talk to you next week.